Welcome, my fellow travelers through time. Settle in, perhaps with a warm drink, as we embark on another profound journey into the echoes of the past. Tonight, we turn our gaze towards a vibrant, yet often overlooked corner of the ancient Maya world, the sun-drenched, turquoise shores of Quintana Roo. Prepare to uncover the secrets of a civilization that built magnificent cities where the jungle met the sea, crafting an empire of trade and worship unlike any other. Before we dive into the depths of history, take a moment to hit that like button, share this tale with a friend, and let your comments guide our next adventure. Now let the story unfold. Good evening, and welcome back to Vibing History. Tonight, we're journeying to a land where turquoise waters meet ancient stone, where a vibrant civilization thrived on the very edge of a vast, mysterious ocean. We're setting our sights on the east coast of Quintana Roo, a forgotten realm of the post-classic Maya, a place that whispers tales of seafaring merchants, celestial goddesses, and an architectural style as unique as the coastal breezes that once swept through its cities. For those of you looking to drift off to the rhythmic hum of history, or perhaps seeking a steady anchor for your focus as you work, settle in. Our journey tonight spans centuries, from the rise of maritime power to its eventual tragic decline, all against the breathtaking backdrop of the Caribbean Sea. Imagine, if you will, a landscape unlike any other in the Maya world. This isn't the dense jungle of Palenque or the towering pyramids of Tikal. Here, the very earth conspires with the ocean to create a unique tableau. Pristine beach coves, cradled by the shimmering expanse of lagoons and the intricate web of mangroves. It's a place where the air hangs heavy with the scent of salt and the distant murmur of waves, a place where the horizon stretched endlessly, inviting both trade and spiritual contemplation. This is the east coast of Quintana Roo, a region encompassing the modern-day beauty of Cancun, the famed Riviera Maya, and the protected wilderness of the Sunken Biosphere Reserve. It also embraces the sacred islands of Cozumel and Isla Mujeres, jewels scattered across the azure canvas of the Caribbean. And it was here between roughly 1200–1550 AD that a distinct chapter of Maya civilization unfolded, a chapter of unprecedented growth, innovation, and eventually profound loss. Now, when we speak of Maya architecture, many of you might immediately picture the soaring, corbelled vaults that characterize so much of their classical period. But the post-classic Maya of Quintana Roo were innovators, adapting their constructions to their unique environment and evolving societal needs. One of the most striking features of their architectural style, which we call the East Coast style, was the embrace of flat roofs within their temples and buildings. A seemingly simple departure, perhaps, but one that speaks volumes about their ingenuity and their willingness to break from tradition. It suggests a different approach to internal space, a less monumental, perhaps more pragmatic aesthetic, perfectly suited for a climate that was both humid and prone to sudden, powerful storms. But it's not just the flat roofs that define this region. Picture this: circular columns, often intricately carved with sculptures, standing as silent sentinels within their temples. And then there are the shrines, small, almost intimate structures that punctuate the landscape, hinting at a deep and abiding spiritual connection to the natural world. Add to this the practical necessities of a maritime culture: well-developed ports facilitating extensive coastal trade, and formidable defensive walls protecting their valuable coastal settlements, and you begin to paint a picture of a vibrant, dynamic society. The very location of these cities, nestled between the sea, lagoons, and mangroves, was not merely a matter of convenience. It was the foundation of their prosperity. This wasn't just prime real estate. It was the highway, the marketplace, the lifeblood of their economy. These cities like Tulum, Zelha, Eckaret, Mui, and many more, all share this intimate relationship with the water. They were major commercial ports, their docks bustling with dugout canoes, laden with goods, their sailors navigating the treacherous, but lucrative coastal trade routes. We have documented evidence of this maritime prowess in the murals of Chichen Itza, in the intricate glyphs of the Dresden Codex, and in the later colonial Spanish documents that marveled at the Mayas' navigational skills. But beyond the economics, the ocean held a profound spiritual significance for the Maya of Quintana Roo. It wasn't just a resource. It was a deity, a powerful force to be venerated. And nowhere is this more evident than in the widespread construction of adoratories or shrines dedicated to various deities, but none more prominent than the goddess Ixchel. Imagine these small, square buildings, often with a single, welcoming entrance, perched precariously on the very edge of the sea, or nestled beside a tranquil lagoon. These were not grand temples in the conventional sense, but rather intimate spaces for devotion, places where offerings were made, where prayers were whispered to the moon and fertility goddess. Some of these shrines have even been found within the sacred depths of cenotes, those mystical sinkholes that the Maya believed were gateways to the underworld. Cozumel Island, in particular, became a paramount pilgrimage center for Ixchel, drawing devotees from across the Maya world, seeking her blessings for safe voyages, abundant harvests, and the miracle of new life. Now, while the post-classic period saw the flourishing of these coastal cities, the history of human presence on the east coast of Quintana Roo stretches back far further, long before the grand monuments we associate with the Maya heartland. Evidence suggests settlements here dating back to the middle-late pre-classic period, in places like Ixchel and Colla. For centuries, these were humble fishing communities, their lives inextricably linked to the rhythms of the sea, their very existence dependent on the larger, more powerful sites in the interior of the Yucatan Peninsula, places like the great city of Coba. They were, in essence, the coastal outposts, providing vital resources to their inland counterparts, yet remaining somewhat on the periphery of the grand political dramas unfolding further afield. However, a dramatic shift occurred after the classic Maya collapse, a period of widespread upheaval and transformation across Mesoamerica. With the establishment of Mayapan as a hegemonic power and the continued influence of Chichen Itza, a new era dawned for the East Coast. What were once small fishing villages began to transform, their strategic coastal locations now proving to be an unparalleled advantage. They became hubs of a burgeoning maritime trade network, connecting distant Maya lands and even cultures beyond, a crucial artery in the economic lifeblood of the post-classic world. This was a time of dynamic growth, of unprecedented interaction, of a civilization truly embracing its coastal identity. But, as with all great civilizations, the light that burned so brightly on these shores would eventually begin to flicker, threatened by an encroaching darkness from across the vast ocean. The year 1517 marked a turning point. The first Spanish expeditions, their sails white against the endless blue, appeared on the horizon, a harbinger of profound and irreversible change. Juan de Grijalva in 1518, and then the full, devastating force of Cortez's arrival, would soon bring the Maya of Quintana Roo face to face with a power unlike any they had ever encountered. The cities that had thrived for centuries, their ports bustling, their temples echoing with devotion, slowly began to decline. Wars, unfamiliar diseases brought by the Europeans, and the systematic disruption of their traditional way of life chipped away at their populations. What were once vibrant centers of trade and culture gradually became depopulated, their inhabitants dwindling, their grand buildings falling into disrepair. By the mid to late 16th century, between 1550 and 1600, the once thriving cities of the east coast of Quintana Roo were largely abandoned, silent ruins swallowed by the relentless advance of the jungle, their stones bearing witness to a civilization that had dared to build its legacy on the very edge of the world. And yet, even in ruin, these sites continue to speak to us, to tell a story of ingenuity, resilience, and a deep connection to the natural world. They remind us that history is not monolithic, that even within a grand narrative like the Maya, there are countless unique chapters, each with its own rhythm and its own song. We will delve deeper into those songs, into the specific sites, the sacred shores, and the celestial goddesses in our next segment. Stay with me as we continue to unlock the secrets of this fascinating and often overlooked corner of the ancient world. Welcome back, my friends, to Vibing History. Settle in, get comfortable, perhaps grab a warm drink, because tonight we're going to delve deeper into the captivating and often overlooked world of the post-classic Maya along the sun-drenched, sacred shores of what is now Quintana Roo. Last time, we laid the groundwork, marveling at the unique architectural fingerprint these coastal cities left behind. But now, we turn our gaze to the spiritual heart of this maritime empire, to the enigmatic shrines and the powerful celestial goddess who held sway over the lives of these ancient mariners and pilgrims. Imagine, for a moment, the rhythmic lapping of the Caribbean Sea against a pristine white sand beach, the rustle of palms in the gentle breeze, and the distant cry of seabirds. This was the backdrop to a profound spiritual landscape for the Maya of Quintana Roo. Their cities, built on beach coves nestled between lagoons and mangrove forests, weren't just bustling commercial hubs. They were also sacred spaces where the ocean itself was venerated. The sea, a source of life and livelihood, was also a gateway to the divine, a shimmering expanse that connected them not only to distant lands but to the very cosmos. And at the heart of this oceanic spirituality stood a figure of immense power and reverence, Ixchel. Her name, whispered across the turquoise waters, echoed through the temples and shrines that dotted this remarkable coastline. Ixchel, the moon goddess, the weaver of destinies, the bringer of fertility and childbirth, but also the formidable deity of medicine and floods. She was a complex and multifaceted goddess, embodying both the gentle ebb and flow of life and the untamed, destructive force of nature. For the coastal Maya, whose lives were so intricately tied to the rhythms of the sea and the sky, Ixchel was an ever-present force, a celestial mother figure whose influence permeated every aspect of their existence. Now, among the most striking and distinctive features of the East Coast architectural style are what archaeologists refer to as adoratories or shrines. These aren't grand, sprawling complexes, but rather small, often unassuming square buildings, each with a single entrance. Yet, their significance far outweighed their modest size. You'll find them situated in prime locations along the shores of the Caribbean, overlooking the vast expanse of water, or near cenotes, those sacred natural sinkholes that were seen as portals to the underworld. Some were even built within larger temples, nestled like precious jewels within a greater structure. These were places of quiet contemplation, of offerings, of prayers whispered to Ixchel as the sun rose over the horizon or dipped beneath the waves. The most famous of these sacred pilgrimage centers, and one that drew devotees from across the Maya world, was located on the enchanting island of Cozumel. Imagine the scene: dugout canoes, their hulls laden with offerings, and hopeful pilgrims, navigating the sparkling waters, their destination the hallowed ground where Ixchel's presence was believed to be most potent. For the pre-Hispanic inhabitants, a journey to Cozumel was more than just travel. It was a spiritual quest, a pilgrimage undertaken to seek blessings for fertility, for healing, for guidance, or simply to express devotion to the powerful moon goddess. The very geography of Quintana Roo, with its captivating blend of sea, lagoon, and dense mangrove, was not merely a practical consideration for trade and defense. It was deeply ingrained in Maya mythology. The ebb and flow of the tides, the phases of the moon reflected on the water's surface, the life-giving rains that nurtured their crops, all were manifestations of the divine, meticulously observed and integrated into their spiritual practices. Temples and shrines, big and small, were strategically placed to honor these forces, to facilitate communication with the gods, and to ensure the continued harmony between the human and natural worlds. When you look at the sheer number of sites along this coastline, Tulum, Zelha, Ekaret, Mui, El Mico, El Rey, San Gervasio on Cozumel, Isla Mujeres, and so many more, they're names like whispered echoes of a bygone era. It becomes clear just how deeply intertwined commerce and spirituality were. A merchant returning from a long and perilous sea journey would undoubtedly offer thanks at a coastal shrine. A family praying for a bountiful harvest or a safe childbirth would turn to Ixchel, knowing her benevolent gaze extended over their lives. These were communities, remember, that had evolved from humble fishing settlements in the pre-classic and classic periods. While larger, more powerful inland sites like Colla held sway during those earlier eras, the post-classic saw a dramatic shift. With the rise of Mayapan and the influence of Chichen Itza, the East Coast, with its strategic maritime trade routes, blossomed. But this growth was not solely economic. It was fueled, in part, by the very spiritual energy of the region, by the draw of sacred sites like those dedicated to Ixchel. The canoes, those vital vessels of commerce, were also pathways for pilgrims, carrying not just goods but prayers, hopes, and profound reverence. The spiritual practices of the East Coast Maya were not static. They were dynamic, adapting and evolving with the changing tides of their civilization. The unique flat roofs of their temples, a departure from the traditional arch vaults found elsewhere, perhaps symbolize this innovation, a practical yet elegant solution for construction in a humid coastal environment. But even within these architectural shifts, the core reverence for deities like Ixchel remained. The adoratories, these small, powerful shrines, continued to be built, a testament to the enduring faith of a people who lived in constant communion with the sea and the sky. Imagine the priests, adorned in intricate regalia, performing rituals on the shores, invoking Ixchel's blessings for safe passage and prosperity. Imagine the quiet devotion of a solitary fisherman, leaving an offering of a shell or a small fish at a coastal shrine before heading out to sea. These weren't just abstract beliefs. They were woven into the fabric of daily life, into the very sand and salt air of Quintana Roo. The stories of Ixchel, the moon goddess, were passed down through generations, shaping their understanding of the world, guiding their decisions, and providing comfort in uncertain times. Yet, this vibrant spiritual world, this intricate tapestry of faith and commerce, was not destined to last forever in its pure form. The echoes of change were already beginning to ripple across the ocean. The year 1517, then 1518, marked the arrival of the first Spanish expeditions to these very shores. And with them, an entirely different worldview, a different set of deities, and a devastating wave of forces that would irrevocably alter the course of Maya history. The sacred shores, once bustling with pilgrims and vibrant ceremonies dedicated to Ixchel, would soon witness a slow, agonizing decline. But before we turn to that somber chapter, let us linger a moment longer in the spiritual heart of the post-classic Maya. Let us appreciate the ingenuity, the devotion, and the deep connection to their environment that allowed them to build such a rich and meaningful spiritual landscape. For in understanding the reverence they held for deities like Ixchel, in visualizing these humble yet powerful shrines, we gain a deeper insight into the souls of the people who thrived on the east coast of Quintana Roo, a civilization that, for centuries, danced in harmony with the celestial goddess and the boundless ocean. When we return, we will witness the fading light of this magnificent civilization, as their world, once so robust and vibrant, began its precipitous decline in the face of an unprecedented encounter. We've journeyed through the architectural marvels, the sacred spaces, and the deeply spiritual connection the post-classic Maya of Quintana Roo held with their coastal world. But how did these communities, initially perhaps just scattered fishing villages, blossom into the bustling maritime centers that captured the awe of the first European arrivals? How did a collection of humble settlements evolve into a sophisticated network of trade, pilgrimage, and power? To truly understand the East Coast Maya, we must rewind our internal clocks, far past the intricate carvings and imposing walls, back to the very nascent stirrings of human presence in this vibrant, water-kissed land. Evidence, both tantalizing and fragmentary, suggests that people walked these shores, fished these waters, and lived under these expansive skies long before the grand temples of Tulum or El Rey ever graced the horizon. We're talking about a timeline that stretches back well before the traditional pre-classic period of Mesoamerica, hinting an enduring human story rooted deeply in this coastal paradise. Fast forward, then, to the middle to late pre-classic period. What we find are the earliest discernible settlements on the East Coast. Picture them: modest clusters of dwellings, perhaps no more than a few families huddled together, their lives intimately tethered to the rhythm of the sea. Sites like Ixchel and Colla whisper tales of these early beginnings. They were, in essence, fishing communities, hardy souls who mastered the art of extracting sustenance from the bountiful Caribbean. Now, it's crucial to understand their place in the broader Maya world of the time. During the classic period, when the monumental cities of the interior, places like the magnificent Colla, reached their zenith, these coastal settlements remained relatively small. They were not independent empires, not centers of grand dynastic power. Instead, they existed, for the most part, in a delicate balance, often dependent on the larger, more powerful sites nestled deeper within the Yucatan Peninsula. Think of them as vital, yet smaller, arteries connected to the beating heart of the classic Maya civilization. They provided resources, perhaps exotic shells or specialized seafood, to their inland counterparts, maintaining a quiet, supportive role. But then, as history often dictates, the grand tapestry of the classic Maya began to unravel. The famed classic Maya collapse, a complex and multifaceted event that we've explored in other documentaries, sent ripples throughout the entire Maya world. And in the wake of this seismic shift, as the towering cities of the interior struggled, a new order began to emerge, ushering in what historians refer to as the Postclassic period. This is where the story of the East Coast Maya truly takes flight. With the establishment of Mayapan as a hegemonic power in the early Postclassic, a significant shift occurred. Suddenly, the focus of Maya power and influence began to pivot, and the coastal regions found themselves in a dramatically advantageous position. While Mayapan, under the long shadow of Chichen Itza's earlier dominance, consolidated its power, the East Coast began to experience an unprecedented surge in development. Why this sudden boom? The answer lies quite literally in the water. The East Coast's prime location, bordering the Caribbean Sea, transformed these once small fishing communities into major commercial hubs. They became the crucial nodes in an extensive, sophisticated coastal maritime trade network. Imagine the scene: dugout canoes, meticulously crafted and expertly navigated, gliding across the turquoise waters. These weren't mere fishing vessels anymore. They were the lifeblood of a burgeoning economy, laden with goods, ideas, and cultural exchange. This extensive use of dugout canoes isn't just a fanciful image, it's a documented reality. Murals, those vibrant windows into the past, found in sites like Chichen Itza, depict these very vessels. And perhaps even more compelling, the Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving pre-Columbian Maya books, provides intricate details and illustrations of these canoes, highlighting their pivotal role in Maya life and commerce. Later, Spanish colonial documents would also bear witness to the enduring presence and importance of these maritime trade routes, offering another layer of corroboration to this fascinating chapter of Maya history. The geography of the region, therefore, was not merely a backdrop. It was the catalyst for this transformation. The strategic placement of these cities, nestled within beach coves, often between tranquil lagoons and dense mangroves, provided both protection and natural harbors. These were not just convenient locations. They were meticulously chosen, meticulously utilized. They allowed for easy access to the open sea while offering sheltered havens for their fleets. This maritime prowess fundamentally reshaped the East Coast Maya. They transitioned from humble fishermen, though fishing undoubtedly remained a vital activity, to skilled navigators and formidable merchants. Goods flowed in and out of these ports, salt a crucial commodity from the vast salt flats of the Yucatan, obsidian, sharp and valuable for tools and weaponry, textiles, vibrant and intricately woven, even exotic feathers and precious jade, all moved efficiently along these sea lanes. This period of the post-classic saw the growth of cities like Tulum, with its commanding presence atop a cliff, a silent sentinel watching over the Caribbean. Zelha, Ekaret, Mui, El Mico, El Rey. These names, and many more, emerged as significant centers in this maritime empire. They weren't just isolated cities. They were interconnected, a web of commerce and shared culture bound together by the ocean. But the winds of change, as they so often do, were gathering strength on the distant horizon. The prosperity and development of the East Coast Maya, built upon centuries of adaptation and ingenuity, were about to face their ultimate challenge. The arrival of the first Spanish expeditions between 1517 and 1518 would mark a profound and irreversible turning point. These encounters, initially perhaps fleeting, were the harbingers of a new era, one that would bring an end to the golden age of these vibrant coastal cities. The decline, slow and agonizing at first, would be wrought by the devastating combination of foreign diseases, against which the indigenous populations had no immunity, and the brutal reality of war. The cities that had once thrived, teeming with life and commerce, would gradually see their populations dwindle, their vibrant markets fall silent, until between 1550 and 1600 they would be left largely abandoned, their magnificent structures slowly reclaimed by the encroaching jungle and the relentless whispers of the wind. But even in their ruins, these cities tell a powerful story, a story of resilience, innovation, and the enduring human spirit. A story of how, from humble beginnings, a people harnessed the power of their environment to forge a thriving maritime empire, leaving behind a legacy that continues to captivate us to this very day. And so, as the centuries unfurled along the sun-drenched shores of Quintana Roo, a vibrant tapestry of maritime trade, sacred pilgrimages, and architectural innovation reached its zenith. The Maya cities, strategically perched between the shimmering Caribbean and the verdant embrace of lagoons and mangroves, hummed with the energy of a flourishing civilization. They were masters of the sea, their dugout canoes traversing vast distances, connecting them to a sophisticated network that stretched far beyond their immediate horizons. The whispers of Ixchel, the moon goddess, echoed in the sea breeze, drawing pilgrims to hallowed shrines, particularly on the mystical island of Cozumel. Life here, though unique in its coastal adaptation, was undeniably Maya, deeply rooted in traditions that had evolved over millennia, carrying the echoes of ancestral wisdom. But even the most resilient civilizations, those that seem etched into the very fabric of time, can find themselves standing on the precipice of an unforeseen cataclysm. Imagine, if you will, the rhythmic lapping of waves against the shore, a sound that had been a constant companion to the Maya for countless generations. Now, picture that same rhythm, suddenly punctuated by an unfamiliar melody, the creak of sails, the splintering of foreign timbers, and the distant, unsettling clang of armor. It began subtly, these harbingers of change. In the early years of the 16th century, between 1517 and 1518, the first Spanish expeditions, driven by a thirst for gold, glory, and conversion, began to probe the eastern fringes of the Yucatan Peninsula. For the Maya of Quintana Roo, who had long interacted with diverse cultures through their trade networks, these initial encounters might have been met with a mixture of curiosity and caution. But what they couldn't have known, what no civilization could truly anticipate, was the sheer, overwhelming force that lay behind these exploratory probes. The arrival of the Spanish was not merely the arrival of a new trading partner or a rival kingdom. It was the collision of two worlds, vastly different in their technologies, their ideologies, and, perhaps most tragically, their biological immunities. The sophisticated maritime cities, which had so skillfully navigated the currents of the Caribbean, found themselves utterly unprepared for the invisible invaders that traveled alongside the conquistadors. Diseases, words that now resonate with such profound weight in our own time. Smallpox, measles, influenza, pathogens entirely unknown to the indigenous populations, against which they possessed no natural defenses. These illnesses swept through communities like an inferno, indiscriminate and relentless. Picture the bustling markets falling silent, the vibrant temples standing empty, not from a lack of faith, but from a tragic scarcity of worshippers. Families were decimated, leaders fell ill, and the very fabric of society began to unravel under the silent, terrifying assault of contagion. And then there was the conflict. While the initial interactions may have been cautious, the Spanish agenda soon became clear: conquest and dominion. The Maya, though formidable warriors with a deep understanding of their land and sea, found themselves at a profound disadvantage. Spanish steel, firearms, and cavalry were alien and devastating forces against their traditional weapons and fighting styles. While the details of every skirmish along the Quintana Roo coast are lost to the sands of time, we can imagine the desperation, the struggle, and the ultimate futility of resistance against a technologically superior foe who also carried the invisible weapon of disease. The proud cities that had thrived for centuries began to wither. The populations, already decimated by pestilence, dwindled further under the strain of warfare, forced labor, and the disruption of their traditional ways of life. Imagine the once bustling ports, where canoes laden with goods once arrived daily, now standing eerily silent, the intricate maritime network crumbling as its nodes ceased to function. The adoratories, once vibrant centers of devotion to Ixchel, might have witnessed fewer and fewer pilgrims, their sacred purpose overshadowed by the encroaching shadows of despair. The timeline is stark. Between 1550 and 1600 AD, a mere half-century, the once thriving Maya cities of the east coast of Quintana Roo, these bastions of post-classic civilization, were largely abandoned. What remained were only a few scattered inhabitants, ghosts in their own homeland, witnessing the slow, agonizing decay of their ancestral cities. The grand structures, once gleaming with plaster and vibrant murals, began their long descent into ruin, reclaimed by the relentless embrace of the jungle and the salty caress of the sea winds. It's a sobering thought, isn't it, that a civilization so intimately connected to its environment, so adept at harnessing its resources and navigating its challenges, could ultimately be undone by forces entirely alien to its experience. The collapse of the coastal Maya was not a sudden, dramatic implosion, but a gradual, agonizing fading of light. It was a story told in diminishing returns, in silent villages, and in the growing encroachment of the natural world upon human endeavor. The architectural wonders of Tulum, Zelha, Eckaret, and countless others, which we discussed as vibrant testaments to Maya ingenuity and spiritual depth, slowly became forgotten. Their flat-roofed temples, their unique adoratories, their defensive walls, all monuments to a powerful, flourishing culture, gradually surrendered to the elements. The intricate knowledge of the stars, the complex rituals, the stories whispered from generation to generation, much of it lost, or profoundly altered, as the Maya world fractured under the weight of conquest and disease. When we look upon these ruins today, nestled among the palms and overlooking the azure Caribbean, we're not just seeing stones. We are seeing the echoes of a profound human story, a story of adaptation, resilience, spiritual devotion, and ultimately, a tragic encounter with forces that reshaped the destiny of an entire continent. The east coast of Quintana Roo, once a beacon of Maya power and piety, became a poignant testament to the fragility of even the most magnificent civilizations when confronted by the overwhelming tide of historical change. And so, the sun set on an era, leaving behind a legacy that continues to whisper its secrets from the depths of time, if only we are willing to listen. And so, our journey through the sun-kissed, yet ultimately tragic, history of the Maya East Coast draws to a close. We've walked through bustling ports, stood before sacred shrines, and witnessed the rise and fall of a civilization inextricably linked to the Caribbean Sea. I hope this deep dive into Quintana's past has given you a fresh perspective on the ingenuity and resilience of the ancient Maya. If you enjoyed unraveling these mysteries with me, please consider liking this video, sharing it with someone who loves history, and subscribing for more profound explorations. Tell me in the comments below, what part of this story resonated most with you, and what hidden corner of history should we illuminate next? Until then, keep vibing with history.